TatiV, and if you're a true crime lover like me, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And make sure your post notifications are on so you'll never miss when I upload a video. So, before we get into today's video, I do want to share two things. First, I do have a true crime podcast. It's called Talk True Crime to Me on Spotify. So if you're interested, be sure to check that out. And secondly, I want to shout out my first comment winner, Zara Styles. So this person comments on the majority of my videos, and I am so grateful for that. So thank you so much. And if any of you guys want to be the first comment winner, comment down below, being the first one to comment on the video. So let's jump into today's video, which is the true crime book. I feel like I haven't read the true crime book in a minute, so I'm curious. So let's go ahead and see what story we have to talk about today, and depending on how long the story is, I may read it too. So sit back, relax, grab a snack, and enjoy some crime time. Warning, this video may contain details of graphic content. This channel is for mature audiences only. Some viewers might find this disturbing. Okay, so this is a last name that I'm gonna have trouble pronouncing, so just bear with me. X-Rocks repairman committed the worst mass murder in Hawaii's history and one of the worst workplace shootings in U.S. history. Born in 1959, exact date unknown, in Honolulu, Bryan Uyesugi. I don't know, I have no idea. Lived in a section of the island known as Nuani. I'ma just call it Nunu. He lived in Nunu in a section called Nunu. His home life was unremarkable, and he joined the Army, JROTC, while he attended Roosevelt High School. Those who knew him remember him as a quiet boy who never got into trouble. Bryan had two main interests, which became his hobbies. Koi, oh my god, I love that name, Koi, which he raised and bred in collecting firearms. He owned 25 guns and, all registered in his name. Those who knew Bryan point to three events in his life that changed him for the worst. First event was a car accident he was involved in after graduating high school in 1987. He crashed his father's car, hitting his head against the windshield. That might have messed up like his brain, chemical or whatever. His family reported that he was never the same after the accident. The second event was when he was hired at X-Rocks in 1984. And the third event was the death of his mother in 1988. It was around this time that Bryan started experiencing painful sensations in his head. Bryan worked as a technician at X-Rocks for over 15 years. He worked at the Nimitz warehouse for most of that time. His co-workers considered him very knowledgeable about his job, but commented that while he never missed work, they felt he lacked social skills, did not handle stress well. His lack of ability to handle stress became evident when X-Rocks started phasing out the model of copier Bryan had always worked. Bryan resisted every attempt by management to get him to attend training for the new copier model. He was concerned he would not be able to keep up with this change in technology. On November 1st, Bryan was advised he must start training the very next day. Bryan felt concerned. If he did not attend training, he would be fired. Besides being required to go to training, Bryan was transferred to a employees, saying they were harassing him and tampering with the product. Some of his team members ostracized him, causing him to feel withdrawn and isolated. These feelings led him to make threats against some of his coworkers. I feel like it was all in his head. I don't think like it was really that deep, but you know, he might be a little paranoid. He probably suffered from PTSD or, you know, anything, not excusing his behavior, but it probably was all in his head. Bryan's first encounter with the law was in 1985 when he was found guilty of driving under the influence. His driver's license was suspended. He was sentenced to 72 hours of community service and fined $200. In 1993, Bryan was arrested for third-degree criminal property damage for kicking an elevator door. He was ordered to attend an anger management course and undergo a psychiatric evaluation. Bryan did see a psychiatrist who concluded that he was suffering from deep-rooted delusions. As a result, Bryan spent 5 days at Castle Hospital for observation. Bryan told Dr. Lee, the psychiatrist in charge of his case there, that he had experienced auditory and visual hallucinations. See, he spoke of voices he heard in his head and black shadows that followed him. Dr. Lee felt that Bryan was suffering from delusional disorder and paranoia. He also disclosed that he had thoughts about conducting a mass shooting. Bryan would later confide to his brother that he saw shadows and they were trying to pin him down. In 1987, Bryan's father, Hiro, had a Shingon priest bless their home. He hoped it would help relieve his son's fears. However, the priest advised Hiro that he suspected that Bryan was experiencing mental illness. Bryan's father urged his son to get psychiatric help, but he refused. On November 2nd, 1999, Bryan reported to work as usual. His father would later say he seemed perfectly normal. Good. He arrived at X-Rocks at 8:10 a.m. and was scheduled to attend a meeting with his work team to discuss concerns about his productivity. He entered the building and took the elevator to the second floor. Upon reaching the second floor, he pulled out a 9mm Glock and started firing into the offices as he made his way down the hall. 4 of the 7 employees that Bryan killed were members of his own team. Other employees were working in the warehouse located at the rear of the building. When they heard the shots, some of them came to investigate what was happening. They did not know the sound they had heard was gunfire. One of those employees was George Mode, who testified in court about his experience encountering the bloody, dead bodies of his coworkers. Quote, "I saw bodies and I couldn't understand, fathom." He testified, quote, "I felt sick," end quote. I can only imagine. So the day of the shooting was November 2nd, 2023, 1999, which was like 7 months after the Columbine shooting. Another employee escaped being Bryan's 8th fatality by running down a stairwell when he realized what was happening. Though Bryan fired at him, he missed his target. The victims were Christopher Balatico, age 33, Fod Kanehira, age 41, Melvin Lee, age 58, Peter Mark, age 46, Ronald Kataoka, age 50, and John Sakamoto, age 36. After the massacre was over, Bryan stole a green company van and drove off. Parking attendant Edith saw Bryan leave the building and drive away would later say, quote, "He wasn't speeding, he just drove past calmly," end quote. Well, unfortunately, this is not the biggest mass shooting in US history, because that has been topped, I'm pretty certain. And nowadays, it's like, especially in the US, I don't know, like, is this normal in any other countries? Or any other countries experiencing the amount of mass shootings that we are experiencing? Because it's like, it's happening like every month, if not every week. Like, it's starting to become, more common. And I know me and my mom talk about it all the time, and we're like, did you hear about another mass shooting, like another one? Which is so sad. I honestly think that they should just ban guns in the US. Like, I'm sorry, there's no reason no one from a distance should be able to take my life, and I'm able to take their life from a distance. Like, they should just ban guns, even though people are gonna, like, break the rules, obviously. But what do y'all think? Like, how could America put mass shootings to an end? Comment down below. Do y'all think guns should be banned? Do y'all think more resources should be available for people with mental illnesses? Do you think it should be like stricter rules to be able to purchase a weapon and ammunition? What do y'all think? Bryan drove to the Hawaii Nature Center located in Makiki. The manhunt closed in on him there when police received intelligence about his location. The Hawaii Nature Center is in an area of the island that is densely populated, with several schools nearby. Oh my god. So those schools were probably on lockdown. While the manhunt was on, a school a school was locked down and teachers kept students inside. The same occurred at Montessori Community School. Additionally, 10 homes were evacuated. The police cordoned off a half-mile around Bryan, who was sitting in the parked van. A SWAT team used a bullhorn to communicate with Bryan in what became a 5-hour standoff. Bryan gave up and surrendered at 3 p.m. I thought he was going to take himself out, honestly. Bryan had his preliminary hearing on November 6, 1999. He pleaded innocent to 1 count of first-degree murder and 7 counts of secondary murder. A first-degree murder charge in Hawaii covers multiple killings and carries a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Bryan was held on a $7 million bail. Bryan's trial began on May 15, 2000. The psychiatrist for the defense argued that Bryan was not guilty due to reason of insanity, as his client feared there was a conspiracy going on among his co-workers to get him fired. But that's not a reason to take somebody's life just because they're trying to get you fired. Like, that's okay. But maybe in his mind that was justifiable. Anyway, the prosecution's psychiatrist argued that while Bryan has schizophrenia, he was angry that he was facing termination of employment due to insubordination. Further, the prosecution argued Bryan demonstrated he knew what he was doing when committing the massacre. On June 13, 2000, the 12-person jury found Bryan guilty on all charges, taking only 2 hours for deliberation. As Hawaii does not have the death penalty, Bryan was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole on August 8th. Bryan appealed his conviction to the Hawaii Supreme Court in 2002, arguing that he had inadequate representation during his first trial. 2005, both X-Rocks and Castle Hospital, who had evaluated Bryan, settled a lawsuit brought by the victims' families. The families argued that both X-Rocks and Castle were negligent in failing to protect society from Bryan's instability, noting that Bryan's violent tendencies were known as far back as 1993. Rightfully so, that should have been a lawsuit. Additionally, the Hawaiian state legislature passed a law that requires medical professionals to provide information on the mental state of those who are applying for the purchase of a gun. In June, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the prosecution, agreeing that Bryan was aware of his actions at the time of crime. Bryan was in prison at the Tallahatchie County Correctional Facility, located in Tutwiler, Mississippi. Tallahatchie was chosen due to the inability of the Halawa Correctional Facility to isolate prisoners. Society is like a fabric. Each thread intersects with all the other threads. When the threads do not intersect with each other, the fabric falls apart. X-Rocks and Castle Hospital failed to do their due diligence, costing 8 people their lives. Okay guys, so I'm gonna stop right there because the next story is a little long.